Coming up, can the Nuggets beat the Clippers? When the Nuggets have the ball, how can they take advantage of a stingy Clippers defense? When the Clippers have the ball, how can the Nuggets, what's that thing? Get a stop, that thing they haven't done in 6 months. Plus, we're going to talk about which Nugget is this series for and which Nugget is the series not for. Coming up on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Being with us Monday through Friday. That's called being an everyday or hanging out with us with the real sickos at youtube.com/Locked On Nuggets, as well as if you're joining us on the podcast version, or you're, probably like a little bit more sane. But we love the sickos. We love the Nugget sickos in the comments at youtube.com/Locked On Nuggets. And if you're joining us on podcast, leave us those 5-star reviews. Today's show is brought to you by nobody. We have no providing sponsor today, but my name's Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. You can catch me on Locked On NBA Daily, Monday through Friday, as well as on the squad shows West, where I am constantly antagonizing the other West teams about Nikola Jokic. So you should check me out on there. It's great. It's so much fun. I'm joined by Ryan Blackburn of Mile High Sports. He's got the Pickaxe and Roll podcast that's also on YouTube. He had Jeff Morton, King of Thornton, on and talking about the Josh Kroenke presser. Good perspective from Jeff there, so make sure to enjoy that. Ryan, how you doing on a Tuesday night going into Wednesday?
I'm good. I got to watch my favorite player, Zach Edey, shine in a game tonight, a really, really important game tonight. Unfortunately, they were not able to take the win. But hey, you live on, and the future is bright with Zach Edey in Memphis.
On today's show, we'll talk about which Nuggets can have a good series versus the Clippers, and which Nuggets will not. We'll get to a breakdown. This is kind of like our big preview breakdown. We're gonna do a crossover episode with Locked On Clippers. Darian Vaziri is over there. He does a great job. I love Darian. He's so good. So you're gonna have a really good show with him tomorrow. It's Swipa and Ryan teaming up, tag team against him. So you can catch that in the feed. Then we'll come back and we'll do Swipa's thoughts on Thursday a little bit more, and then the expansion, and then we'll probably get together for a 3-man group on Friday as like our final kind of preview before Saturday's game versus the Los Angeles Clippers in the very early slot of 1:30 p.m.
We gotta find a Denvenders time at some point.
That's a good point. I will text our outlier, our outcast about that. I'll do that this week. Okay, so we're gonna talk about. Let's talk about this matchup. When you've been doing the research, this could be about anything. What are the things that really stand out to you about this matchup when you dug in?
Well, the first thing that I think most people don't really fully appreciate is just how good the core 4 guys for the Clippers have been when they're on the floor together. Plus 15.4 net rating in over 1,000 possessions when Kawhi, Norman Powell, James Harden, and Ivica Zubac are on the floor. And that to me, like, hey, add those 4 guys and then add your best perimeter defender to guard Jamal Murray, and you've got a pretty solid formula to be able to, like, at least have a baseline against the Nuggets' best punch. And that to me, like, you've got 3 different options on the offensive end. But when I'm thinking about Denver on the offensive end, which is I think where we're going to start here, I'm thinking about how often they go to the post with Jokic versus Zubac. How often are they in the pick and roll with the 2-man game with Murray and Jokic? And how well can they space the floor around those two if they have to add another offensive player or another defensive player to guard those other guys? Like what happens if Denver is compromised on defense, and how does it then affect their offense when they have to adjust?
Is David Adelman more or less likely to move guys out of the rotation if it's not their series?
Man, I don't know. This is one thing that like with Malone, you absolutely knew that he was going to trust the current group, the guys that they have been playing all year. Jeff Green is a great example of that in the 2023 playoffs, that it didn't matter that he wasn't the best forward that year off the bench. He was the guy that they trusted in the playoff series, and it absolutely worked out. So Is this going to be a situation where Michael Porter gets the same trust from David Adelman, or does he get a quick hook? Is this going to be like Christian Brown, for example? If he's able to guard James Harden and do a reasonable job against him, then he stays out there. If he can't guard James Harden, do they decide to go to Russell Westbrook as a starter? I don't know. This is the kind of pivot points that you're thinking of that, hey, you have to start thinking in your head. I don't think that that's going to be the case. That's not where I think it's going to go. But I do think that there's at least a possibility that Adelman has to get a little bit more crazy, and he's not as tied to any one player because, as he has said it himself, he's just trying to go with the best five, trying to win the game.
Let's talk about offense. Let's start there. And let's talk about the Nuggets on offense. My read on this series, my big thing in this series, this is a big part of it, is like, I just think the Nuggets have more firepower. I just do. I just think they have more firepower. The numbers will try and illustrate to you that the Clippers with Kawhi Leonard have a better offense over the last, 20-ish games.
Yeah, month and a half.
I don't know how to, I just don't know how, a lot of this for, I think, neutral observers is just what do you believe in? Do you believe in this stretch with Kawhi Leonard in March? Or do you believe in the entire season with Nuggets? Or do you believe in this bad stretch from the Nuggets over the last 2 months? You have to kind of decide which stretch you believe in. I will say that, I just think that this, you have Jokic and you have weapons and you're going to score. This Clippers defense, an important reminder is that this Clippers defense is number 2, I think, on the season, schedule adjusted. This defense is not OKC, where they jump on you and they are just tearing the ball out of your hands and constantly creating turnovers and a vicious pack of wolves, or a vicious swarm is actually a better use of it. I actually compared them to murder hornets once. That's not who they are. They're not like the wolves who are ravenous and are just constantly attacking and super physical. They're just extremely fundamentally sound.
Yeah.
They just contest everything. They contest it well. They produce a low percentage of field goal percentage. And that's it. That's what they do. I have a lot of confidence Denver's going to be able to tear that to pieces. I just think that they are going to be able to score. Now, I think they won't be able to tear it to pieces in terms of compared to what other teams will do to Denver, but they will still score at such a high level. I have a lot of confidence in Denver's offense. Here's a good one.
Okay.
So the Jamal Murray injury question, I think, is apt, but I will tell you that I am encouraged by the last games that Jamal played. I'm pretty encouraged. Chris Dunn held him to a 51% true shooting percentage in their matchups. That was back in the before times when Jamal was sucking pretty hard and he was not looking good. Jamal with separation is going to be able to get to the shots that he wants versus this team. I think that Jamal is going to have a great series here. I like Chris Dunn. I have said this. If Chris Dunn had played enough games, I might have put him as defensive player of the year. That's how important I think Chris Dunn's defensive work on the perimeter is. He didn't.
Yeah.
But also, he is not, there are slight differences in Chris Dunn and Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Jaden McDaniels. There's a little bit of size differential. There's a little bit of muscle differential. There's a little bit of closing speed off of screens. There's a little bit of ability to stay on contact coming over screens. And I think Jamal is going to be able to score here. I could look stupid. Those of you that hate Jamal and think that he's always going to suck forever, you might have a great series. You might be able to enjoy this. But I think Jamal is going to be able to score. And if you got Joker, and look, Zoo does a great job on Joker, but Joker figures you out. And the more that he plays against Zoo in a series again, I think he'll figure him out by the end of it. He'll figure out this new version of Zoo that's gotten better every single year. So that combination, I like a lot. I like Aaron Gordon to a certain degree. Kawhi Leonard, if he's guarding him, don't like that. Any other guy guarding Aaron Gordon, I'm going to like that matchup for AG to be able to at least play make and create some offense. He's going to need to hit threes, and that's the thing all year, right? Is Aaron Gordon's a great shooter. If Aaron turns back into a 31% three-point shooter, the Nuggets are screwed. No, there's no hope there.
Sure.
But I think they're going to have enough firepower to score on this team with the ability to cut off of screens. They're going to try and front. They're going to have counters for it. I like the matchup offensively for Denver in the series.
By the way, did you see the stat that Jake Coyne threw out there that Gordon is the only guy in NBA history, dating back to a certain time, that has increased both his three-point percentage and his free throw percentage by 10% year over year?
That's impressive.
Only guy in NBA history. it is relatively small sample size. He hasn't played as many games as some others this year. And like we kind of saw it kind of trickle down a little bit over the course of the end of the season, but I still feel pretty good about him. Like when he's pulling up in transition, like it's wild how I used to hate that shot, but hey, guys work on their game and they get better and he gets more comfortable and he has now turned that into a weapon for himself. So good on him. The other thing with the Jokic versus Zubats matchup, and I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing Ivica Zubac's name incorrectly. So I'm gonna do my best. I think that one of the things that Jokic is going to do to him is the off-ball cuts and the movement off ball and the forcing him to go under a screen and then pop out to the top of the key. Something that Zoo just cannot handle, keeping up with him on the perimeter on a consistent basis. Jokic is just so easy to maneuver. Zoo is absolutely going to force some switches, and then Jokic will be able to back down somebody else who is not a 7-footer. So I'm curious to see how he handles that. I think he's going to have a great series because he's Jokic. And if Murray has a great series or a good enough series, then Denver's offense, like you said, it's probably going to cook. Is Porter going to be able to get enough open shots and enough cuts to make himself valuable?
We'll talk about that coming up on Locked On Nuggets.
What a pivot.
Got to be quicker than that. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about it. When was the last time you had a service emergency? If the first person didn't answer, did you wait? Probably not. That's why you need OpenPhone. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications, all through an app on your phone or computer. Your favorite feature is going to be the shared inbox. Your team can jump into any conversation without missing a beat. And the AI call transcripts and summaries will save you time on follow-ups and ensure that you never lose track of customer interaction. OpenPhone is offering our listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonnba. That's OPENPHONE.com/lockedonnba. And if you're switching from another service, OpenPhone will even port your existing numbers over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. We're also brought to you today by the Amazon Fire TV. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? You turn on any TV in your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices, no console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. You can dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. Maybe you'll run into some NBA players while you're playing Warzone. Entirely possible. I'm a big Car 98 guy myself. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With Wi-Fi 6, 6E, and auto low latency mode advanced technology, Fire Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds you need to stay competitive. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On. That's Fire TV Locked On at Amazon.com to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd generation, and Fire TV Cube 3rd gen. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us. Hurricane says, we know about Fire TV, but did Matt set his TV on fire tonight? So anyway, you asked about MPJ.
Yes.
I'm very curious to see what the Clippers do here and who they're going to put on MPJ. If Kawhi guards Aaron Gordon, there's a good opportunity here. If they put Norman Powell on him, I like that situation. If they put Harden on him, I think you can probably get him to fall asleep a little bit. But the problem is, like, those two guys, they're not good defenders. And so they know the assignment is like, stay home. Yeah. Like Harden's like, cool, just stand in the corner. Got it. No problem. And like Mike's not a fast cutter. But I will say, if Mike cuts hard and uses his size advantage, then he can get there. My concern is that Nick Batum comes back in the series and he guards MPJ, and then it's like, all right, that's it. That one's done. Like, that's bad. I think that you could use more athleticism on the wing, honestly, in this matchup, and we'll get to this in the final segment. That I don't think this is an MPJ matchup. And if you go back through the history, when the series are not MPJ matchups, it hasn't gone well for Denver. Like, it's not a good sign, which is why I think they got to find somebody else to step up and contribute. You can't just have MPJ out there as a negative. If MPJ is not able to create shots for himself, if they're not allowing him to get shots, you might have to go to something else. Now, if Kawhi wants to take MPJ and use help side, that's honestly fantastic. Move MPJ into the other corner and Kawhi-solate. That means move Kawhi completely out of the play and attack the rest of the guys. If they don't want to put Kawhi on, if they want to put Kawhi on MPJ and they have somebody else, I don't care who, DJJ on Aaron Gordon, by all means, let's get him involved in a 4 or 5 pick and roll, inverted pick and roll, and Jokic can attack that. Love that. DJJ is a good ISO defender, but like that's an action he's not going to be comfortable in. So the Nuggets do have these kind of counters depending on what happens. And that to me is really important. We'll talk about this again. It's kind of hard to separate out like who's going to have a good series and not. So I will go ahead and jump ahead on this. I think this is going to be an absolutely sensational Christian Braun series. I think this is going to be like Christian Braun putting himself on the stage for the first time really since the finals in 2023. I think he's going to shine in this series defensively. And I think that they're going to put either Harden or Powell on him to hide. And Christian is going to cut them into oblivion because typically the Clippers are like, well, it's okay if you back cut because we got Zoo back there and he'll just rim protect. You can't do that with Joker because Joker's going to play up and Zoo's got to respect him from range. So with Zoo up top, that opens that back line. All of a sudden, if you get Zoo out of the paint, now you got James Harden and Norman Powell, and that second-rate defense doesn't look the same. But nobody else has the real ability to do that. There are not really great stretch fives in the league right now. It's like, it's what, Miles Turner?
And Jokic. And
Cat, a few others. I like that matchup quite a bit. I think Christian's going to have an absolutely phenomenal series. He's gotten much better at getting over screens. He's really good at showing his hands and not fouling. That's one of his best strengths, is never showing hands versus Harden or never failing to show hands versus Harden. He'll still get some calls because it's Harden, and Ryan's going to look like I did after the Grizzlies game. But in general, I think Christian's going to have an absolutely terrific series here offensively, especially.
Honestly, if he just doesn't foul a three-point shooter, and if the Nuggets avoid fouling three-point shooters in this series, I think they're going to win the series. Like, that's straight up.
Norman Powell averaged 27 on 55% guarded by CB.
He wasn't guarded by CB.
You know what happened after that is that Norman Powell turned back into Norman Powell. And that's hard. That's really hard when Norman Powell turns back into Norman Powell, Ryan.
Yeah. And honestly, never mind. I do not want to say that on the Clippers preview podcast. No, I think that Murray is going to be a little bit more locked in defensively in a playoff environment. And so we should probably pivot to the defensive side of things. I think that's the biggest question that I have is how Denver matches up with all three of Harden, Powell, and Kawhi at the same time. When their starters are out there, Murray, Porter, Gordon, Jokic, Christian Braun. Brown will be on Harden. I get that seems pretty evident. Aaron Gordon was built to guard Kawhi. He will be on Kawhi. He'll have to switch, and everybody will have to switch. There's no doubt about it. But I do think that Porter's going to be put on an island at times, and he's going to have to be sitting down and guarding Powell. He's going to have to chase him off of screens. Murray's going to have to do the same thing. How does Denver manage to guard Powell in that situation? Because Denver is going to have Christian Braun on somebody else in this matchup.
Can I ask you something? If I were to ask you, hey, what's like the one situation where Michael Porter Jr. has actually played pretty well defensively this year? What would you say?
I would say in isolation versus like-sized defenders.
So this is my thing.
You want him to guard Harden?
I don't want to guard Harden. They're going to put him in. They're going to make him anyway. Right. The question is, do you give this? This is the question. Do you give the switch? That's the question. Is do you give it? I would not give the switch with Jamal. I would try and fight through that. And the problem there is like Harden. So say it's a top to right pick and roll.
Okay.
Actually, it'd be top to left. Harden wants to get to his step back to his left. if you go under, so if Christian's guarding him and he goes under, Harden is immediately going to get into that step back three. And I don't know. That's a tough shot. I don't know if you want to give those up. I just don't know. I don't know.
Not consistently. Like, it's just
right.
You can do better than that initially in a possession than giving Harden a clean look 15 times a game.
And so I think what the kind of answer here is like, who do you want Jamal on?
I want him on Powell.
Okay.
I want him to be responsible for that.
So if he's guarding Powell, a good thing to probably do here is blitz Harden. And if he kicks to Powell, Powell's not really used to that sequence. Make Powell take a mid-range jumper, and hopefully you can get there. Otherwise, you're going to have to pick a shooter that you want to dare and then bring the help over immediately out of that.
So, and the other problem with having Murray guard Powell in that situation is the one thing, and I mean the one thing that Powell does really well in those mid-range situations is he drives into somebody's hip while they are moving and then launches the ball at the backboard and hopes to get a foul.
Ryan hates this team, by the way. Ryan absolutely hates
Powell specifically is really irritating with that. He always has been. He learned from Dame. I think that the most important thing that Murray can do in that situation is just show hands, allow the running mid-range two-pointer without contesting it as much as possible. And then if Powell makes that, then great. But if you can avoid getting into foul trouble against this team and force them to be taking open mid-range twos, then that is perfectly reasonable because they're not going to take enough threes in that situation in order to make up the gap.
Like, what you don't want against the Clippers team is you don't want them getting into their comfort zones. Like, that's all you're really trying to do here is like you're just trying to take away their comfort zone, and you're trying very specifically to not give up like the easy stuff that you give up versus who's it? Everyone else in the NBA, like everyone else in the NBA. And I actually think that this is like not terrible. From the perspective of the Clippers do run isolation the most in the NBA.
And that's a great thing for rest purposes for your entire team, Matt. Like, honestly, like if your team has to stand where they are in place for these possessions and watch James Harden try to cook somebody, or watch Kawhi Leonard try to cook somebody, or Norman Powell try to cook somebody, like they could. They're talented enough to get it done. Can you do it over the course of 7 games and keep up with Denver's kind of free-flowing cutting offense that is going to generate some pretty good looks? I don't know. My kind of final question here for the main stuff. Where does Jokic play on the up the floor in this particular matchup against pick and roll versus each of those guys? And are they just going to mix it up and try to change things up against that team?
I think you have to play high drop. I think that's like the only real option here. The problem is like, look, if you play drop, Harden is going to murder you with the pocket pass to Zoo.
Yeah,
he's just going to destroy you with it. And if you blitz the way that they want to, Harden is going to absolutely eviscerate you with the pocket pass to Zoo on the short roll. And Zoo's good enough to make any number of sequences.
Now, he didn't necessarily shoot it well against Denver this year, like in each of those matchups. So maybe Aaron Gordon, if he is the guy that is catching that short roll, if Porter's tall enough to be able to handle that, then that's something. If Peyton Watson's in the game and he's rotating over as a rim protector, then maybe that's something. But I agree. It's not ideal. Like, that's not a great situation to be in. Zoo has been a very efficient player in the middle of the floor.
The Clippers generate this season the third fewest catch and shoot threes. They have the fewest per game catch and shoot threes in the NBA.
Great.
That's like, I'm not trying to be overly optimistic here. The Clippers can win the series. I want to be very clear.
Yeah.
The Nuggets defense is horrible. It's horrible. But if you were like, hey, what are some of the characteristics that you would want to see from an opponent for Denver to be able to be in a better position to give up less than 130 a night? It looks a lot like this.
You know who they kind of remind me of is the Phoenix Suns except with a much better defensive profile.
Yep.
But just the way that their offensive profile was looking, where they weren't getting to the rim a ton, where they were taking a lot of mid-rangers, where they weren't getting a lot of catch and shoot threes in rhythm, and they were put into an uncomfortable position against Denver and only really were able to stick with it because Devin Booker caught fire the way that he did. So I think that this bears some similarities with the way that the Clippers run their offense. But we'll see how it bears out. They could absolutely shine a little bit better against Denver's defense, and I'm sure that Ty Lue will have some things schemed up, and I'm sure that their bench will kill Denver's bench.
Well, let's talk about that. We'll talk about who's going to be in the series and who's going to be out of the series. We'll talk about all that and more as we wrap up here on Locked On Nuggets. You know, when I found out Skims was making underwear for men, I was intrigued. I've heard so much about the quality from friends and family, so I had to give it a try. And let me tell you, it lives up to the hype. You're always going to have issues with underwear. It's hard to find the right fit. You got to find the right fit and the right style. Skims changed all that. Their men's line offers something for everyone, from boxer briefs to classic briefs, all designed with the perfect balance of comfort and style. You're going to try them, and you're going to be absolutely hooked. Like, try out the Stretch 5 boxer brief. It's perfect for slipping into something when you're done with the gyms. It's going to be like the missing link for you. It's going to give you the movement for working out without feeling like you're wearing the same stuff all day. It's going to be absolutely terrific for you. Whether you're working out or just running errands, it's the most comfortable and reliable underwear that you'll ever own. Shop SKIMS Mens at skims.com/LockedOnNBA and Skims stores. Let them know that we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us here on a Wednesday. No jinx. We'd never jinx anybody. Absolutely not. Nothing we would do.
You guys want to know all of my series picks? Like, I'm just kidding.
No question, the Clippers are gonna win this series. No doubt about it. Nuggets are cooked.
I don't see any way they lose.
No way. One thing I want to follow up on the defensive side. It's put up or shut up time for AG. AG's had a really miserable year. AG's had a tough year from a personal and physical and professional standpoint outside of his three-point shooting. Like, I think AG's played good offense this year, but the defense has been rough. It's been bad. I have maintained a confidence and belief that AG has another level he can get to, and he is going to need to get to it starting at 1:30 p.m. on Saturday. And he is going to have to be great, because if he's not, I think you can live with a Kawhi Leonard dynamite series. I think you can win that series because of the efficiency. If you can match them in efficiency, I still think you can win. However, Kawhi has a mental effect on you where his shots feel so devastating. And he's one of those guys that when he's going, it just feels like an avalanche. And then you're doubling, and then guys are open. And now all those threes that they don't shoot, catch and shoot, now they're taking them and making them. So, like, AG's going to have to do his job here. Whether it's Kawhi or on switches versus Harden or Powell or whoever, AG is going to have to be a really good defender, or they're going to be in a rough place. They've got to have enough good defenders to make up for the bad ones on this team.
Undoubtedly. Like, it's one of the important factors in why Denver got Aaron Gordon in the first place. The fact that he has been a lot better on the offensive end has obviously been extremely notable. And as I mentioned, the shooting has been fantastic. But the fundamental value of Aaron Gordon was always his ability to connect the team defensively while they were all pulling the same direction and doing the things that they haven't done this year. So you kind of give him a pass, because it's not like he's the only guy who hasn't necessarily been great defensively this year. So it is important for him to take the lead, though. He wants to be a leader for this team, then that's the best way for him to do it. Like, KCP is gone. KCP's not there. They need a veteran defensive leader on the floor, and there's nobody better positioned to do that than Aaron Gordon this year.
Is this the Michael Porter Jr. series?
No, it is not.
Nope. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know where you need him. What do you need him? Like, what do you?
Well, it would be nice to make more threes than the Clippers. That would be great.
But they're not going to take that many anyway.
Agreed.
So, like, they don't generate that many anyway. And so the question is just like, look, I mean, the numbers have said all the year, and this has been one of the things that's really bamboozled me, is the Nuggets, when they get outshot from three that's not that bad. It just can't be by a huge margin. If the Clippers shoot threes on volume, they're going to lose because you can't win the math game. They don't have the shooters. They don't have them.
Yeah.
But if they're able to keep this like tight, if this is like a boxing match with both guys working the body, that to me is like the best way to do this. Ryan has pulled up a chart.
Yeah, I pulled chart burn over here. I wanted to throw this up
at youtube.com/LockedOnNuggets. Should be great podcasting.
Yes.
Also, who wants to look at a chart in a hoop combo?
Yeah, that's pretty notable. Notice that Porter is definitely lower in some of these matchups. He's still extremely valuable with Jokic. Like plus 11.8 net rating is extremely, extremely good. And that should not be taken away from him. However, he has been the main stagger guy for Denver a lot of the time this year. And a lot of that is because Denver just can't play Murray those excess minutes. They can't play Gordon those excess minutes. Can't play Brown those excess minutes. Playoffs is now a little bit of a different situation. So I'm at the point now just kind of looking at this and looking at where Denver gets their value, that it just would not surprise me if Porter takes a little bit of a backseat. Now, it's not like Russell Westbrook's been fantastic with the second unit. It's not like Peyton Watson's been fantastic with the second unit. But if you need to play a more defensive series, those guys might be the right vision to go with. And it just wouldn't surprise me if that was a kind of big tug of war that David Adelman had to pull on for this entire playoff series and maybe the entire playoffs.
I think this is a Peyton Watson series. I think this is a Jalen Pickett series. I do not think it's a Julian Strawther series, and I do not think it's a Michael Porter Jr. series. They will not do this. I get the idea of like sticking with what got you here. Like you want a title with Mike starting. I get it. I'm just saying if things go sideways in the series, you need to at least consider starting Peyton just to be able to have another defender that can get over a screen and be like, hey, we're going to have Christian Brown and Peyton Watson on James Harden and Norman Powell and Aaron Gordon on Kawhi Leonard. So if you want to put those guys in action, you're going to have to put those guys in action. And, other than that, what are you going to like? Okay, if you want to put Jokic in action, you can, but we're going to play at the level. Like, put as many athletic guys on the floor as possible to help the backside rotation. That helps you put two on ball. And to me, that's like way better.
Hey, Russ counts for that as well. I'm going to say, like, Russ FC is now in the comments trying to get us to talk about how Russell Westbrook he guards Harden well, and shouldn't he be a guy that we talk about? I don't know how to approach that. I feel like he's a veteran option that they will trust. He's a good secondary option that if Murray is really struggling with the ball handling, if they want another guy to initiate, then he's another option for them to kind of go with. But I will say that like the volatility is kind of against what playoff basketball is in kind of what Denver's trying to go for a lot of the time. They're trying to limit turnovers. They're trying to limit mistakes. They're trying to avoid the layups that go off of the backboard and go out to the free throw line and then cause the fast break for the other team because Denver's out of position. This is not a anti-Westbrook take. I think that he's going to play the most minutes off the bench for Denver, even over Peyton Watson. But I just think that like Denver has to rein him in at various points and make sure that he's not taking this too personally and not a little bit too wild driving the lane.
I want nothing more than the Russ have an amazing series and get revenge. It would be such a cathartic experience for him to have that happen. I think it'd be amazing and it'd be such a great story and Denver could really use it. I don't see it happening. Russ gets so amped up, man. For you Russ fans that are listening, do you remember what happened when he was guarding Ricky Rubio and instead of switching or taking a different assignment, he was like, no, I'm guarding Ricky Rubio. And it was a disaster. Do you remember when he did the same thing with Dame? I never, ever, ever want Russ amped up. I do not want him. There are players in the NBA that you want with an edge, but there's honestly, very few. Most of the times whenever there's a player that's like pissed off and overly emotional, and this goes back to even legendary players, like ones that used to play for the Los Angeles Lakers in the early 2000s, those players would have notably bad nights, missing a lot of shots when they were too amped up because it was a personal game. You don't want that. You can't afford that. The Nuggets, especially, I think in this series, they can't win this series with defense. If it's like, but Russ is your best, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And if you're like, yeah, but you want to play Peyton, who's a worse offensive player than MPJ, they're not going to target Russ the way that they're going to target MPJ. I'm removing a weak point. I'm not playing a strength. That's not the idea here. It's trying to make it to where the Clippers are like, we have fewer things that we can really attack here. That's like what you want to do. For a team that wants to pick at you with isolation and switches, you take that away as much as possible. And now you're able to be like, it's our offense, base offense versus your base offense. And the Nuggets are going to win that more times than not. That's
the other thing I'm very interested in is how deep David Adelman will actually go into the bench in each of these games. Is this going to be one where he starts with a 9-man rotation? Does it go all the way down to 8? Can DeAndre Jordan play any minutes in this series? Can Zeke Naji play any minutes in this series?
There's no backup. So I think this is AG at 5. I've been against it all year because I think it takes something away from AG. The problem is what I would very specifically do here, and this is a big deal. So what they run second unit, you can play AG in the 5 because they do not run Zoo with the second unit. What I will tell you is they run Norman Powell and Kawhi in the second unit. It's not going to happen, but I'm going to say it anyway. Joker's got to shift his rotation. He has to come out at the 4-minute mark, re-enter the start of the second quarter, play 4 minutes, sit for 2, finish the quarter. That's going to be it.
I don't know if that's true. I honestly don't think that that's true.
Why?
Because I think that Denver can get away with 3 minutes without him. And it's going to have to depend on who they put out there. But the lineup that I've been kind of playing around with in my head is Jalen Pickett or Russell Westbrook, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter, Zeke Naji, Aaron Gordon. And playing a bigger group, a more physical group that can switch, that can guard, that can get enough offense with the other 3 starters. The only 2 starters that you are not going to put out there are Jokic and Brown at that point. Brown gets a rest from guarding Harden, and you go with that. And I think that is a reasonable look. You don't include Peyton in that, but you could include Peyton in that. And you just have to sit down and guard and allow Murray and Aaron Gordon, I think, to kind of lead your offense. And I think that's okay.
This is putting a lot of faith in a very big situation for Zeke Naji. That's like
it's not a lot of minutes, but if you're gonna you want to prove you're a power forward, my guy, let's see it. Let's see it in on the big stage.
Okay. We'll talk more about this tomorrow. We'll do Locked On crossover with Locked On Clippers, Darren Vaziri. You can catch that. We'll have more content throughout the week and a big preview on Friday as well. Hope you guys have yourselves a great Wednesday. We'll see you guys again next time here on Locked On Nuggets. There's a million more things I want to say. I have so many things about the series. It's going to be so interesting.